Hello and welcome. I'm Greg Grugan, Fox 26 political reporter and host of What's Your Point? And Texas, the issue is.
And I'm Sonny Messiah Giles, publisher and CEO of the Houston Defender, Houston's leading black information source, soon to celebrate 95 years of service. Now let's get this show on the road with the introductions of the candidates for the 18th District seat vacated by the death of the longtime public servant Sylvester Turner. The candidates are positioned in order alphabetically and are based on their last names. First is Zoe Caldor. Am I saying that name right, Zoe? Zoe is an energy lobbyist and was a part of the late Representative Sylvester Turner's mayoral transition team. Then we have former at-large council member Amanda Edwards. She is also a practicing attorney.
Next is Isaiah Martin. He is a former senior advisor to the late Representative Jackson Lee. Then we have current Harris County attorney Christian Menifee. And Robert Slater is a former staffer of the late Representative Jackson Lee.
And now for the rules for this debate. You've heard them once, but we're going to hear them again, okay? First, each candidate has drawn for the order which they will answer questions. The first person to answer each question will then move to the end of the line. Each candidate will have exactly 1 minute to answer each question. Whoever was the first to answer that question will get a 30-second rebuttal. We will also have a few rapid response, quick fire questions where each candidate has 30 seconds to respond. No one gets a rebuttal.
5 of the questions and all the quick fire questions were drafted by your moderators, Sonny and me. The others will come directly from the audience, and each candidate will have equal opportunity to answer those, but there will be no rebuttal.
At the end of the questioning, there will be a time for each candidate to make a 1-minute closing statement. Candidates were drawn randomly for that order. You saw that earlier. And we've asked each of our candidates to be respectful of the time cues so that it's fair and that we get to hear everyone's answers.
Sonny or I will interrupt you if you go over time, and we will turn off your microphone if you don't adhere to our instructions. We also ask those of you in the audience to hold your applause until the very end of the debate so that everyone can hear each other's responses. And for you viewers at home, we will be popping up a poll question and invite you to weigh in. Just scan the QR code. Candidates, you ready? And now for quick fire questions. The first one. There's lots of talent and lots of experience on this stage. What specifically will enable you to deliver more consistently and more effectively for the citizens of Texas 18 than any of the other contenders seeking to serve? Ms. Cador, you're first.
I've spent my entire career working in Washington, D.C. as a federal advocate fighting for Houston jobs, Houston businesses, and Houstonians. Simply understanding the federal process, which is very complex, from the House of Representatives to the Senate to the administration. That is what makes me uniquely qualified, in addition to having deep roots here in Houston, Texas, having the lived experiences as a first-generation American, as a caretaker to elderly family members, and as a first-time homeowner here in Houston.
Ms. Edwards.
I was born, raised, and I still live in this 18th Congressional District, and I have the experience that's necessary to get the job done. Not only have I served as a public finance attorney where I've brought public dollars to public projects, and a lot of what you need to do is bring home the bacon, but I've also served as an at-large council member during some of our worst disasters like Harvey, making sure that we know what the policy disconnects are and going to Washington to fix them. I am the candidate with experience and who can deliver results.
Mr. Martin.
Well, I would say that I have federal experience. I understand how to get the job done because I've worked on a lot of the initiatives that are important for the district. But I would say most importantly, I understand the pain of regular people. I go to more community events, more civic groups, more events than anybody else in this race. And I've heard people tell me about how concerned they are about the future. They feel as if nobody's fighting for them, that nobody's listening for them. It's that a level of community groundedness. It's going to keep me grounded when I'm in Washington, and it's going to help me serve you as your next congressman.
Mr. Menifee.
The first thing is I've done the work. I work closely with the late Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, as well as our former mayor Sylvester Turner, to bring resources directly into this community. That's why I'm the only candidate on this stage who is endorsed by elected officials at every single level of government, understanding the importance of you can't do it alone, you're going to need help. I'm also the only candidate on this stage who's put up the fight. And we all know that all across this country, you're going to hear candidates talking about a fight. I have the track record of having stood up to Donald Trump to deliver for our communities, and that's exactly what I'll do in Congress.
Mr. Slater.
Well, I'm not one of those candidates talking about a fight. I'm talking about winning. Because right now, Donald Trump has over 700-something lawyers, and I respect all lawyers. I'll surround myself with the best of them. But as a businessman, it's one thing to go into the court of law, and whether you lose or win for your client, and go home and still eat dinner with your family. As a businessman, my success depends on winning. Because I got staff that depends on me. I got a community that depends on me. So it's bigger and better than just suing. It's about what you're doing. And so as a businessman, I got to look beyond, as well as the president, and I got to build. And that's what I tend to do.
Now for the second quick-fire question, and it's going to be addressed to Mr. Martin first. All of you have come to be intimately involved in District 18. And as a result, the question that I have is, what are the 3 most urgent needs which demand congressional action in the 18th District? Mr. Martin?
Everybody who I talk to is concerned about the cost of living. The ridiculous, stupid tariffs from Donald Trump has raised the cost of everybody in the grocery store. If you go to the grocery store, you see a higher price, it's because of Trump's tariffs. I'm filing legislation to axe the Trump tax as we see it. I absolutely support guaranteeing health care for people because its costs are too high. Guaranteeing child care for people because nobody should have to pay the cost of rent to make sure their kid is watched. That's unacceptable, and I'll fight against that.
Ms. Edwards.
All across the district, we see people who are desperately in need of health care. That is a priority at all age groups. Right now, we see a president who is reversing course on our prescription drug costs and now making those costs go up instead of continuing to make them go down. We also need someone fighting for economic opportunity so that everybody in this district can thrive. Finally, we need to go ahead and fight for our future, and that is for our students and our kids. And that means making sure that we have publicly funded education available to each and every student.
Mr. Menifee.
The first is clean air and clean water. Across our district, we have concrete batch plants, metal recyclers that are hyper-concentrated in our communities, but you don't see a single one of them in River Oaks. Send me to Congress, I will continue to fight back against that. The second is the cutting of social safety net programs throughout our communities. Donald Trump is cutting Medicaid, he's cutting SNAP benefits, despite the fact that this district has the largest concentration of SNAP beneficiaries in all the state of Texas. So holding our president accountable to protect these programs that give people a fair shot at the American dream is a top priority of people throughout our district.
Ms. Cordora.
Quality of life right now is at risk for everyone. For our seniors, their health care benefits are being taken away and their Social Security is under attack. For our young people, they are unable to afford housing and they cannot find jobs, and we have to eliminate that in the greatest country in the world. And in the city of Houston, we are under constant attack from weather events, and we have to make sure that we are not able to just respond to it, but that we are able to prepare for it so that our most vulnerable people are not suffering when there is a hurricane or a winter storm.
Mr. Slater.
I keep hearing about real representation. My first order of business is formulating a congressional advisory board that consists of 21 members of the district. This is faith-based leaders, stakeholders, so on and so forth. Before I cast my vote in D.C., I'll come to this board and explain the issue so the information, the community come along with me. And then they'll go to the constituency, get the consensus, come back and vote. And wherever that board vote, then I'll go vote. That's what representation is of 800,000 people. But it keeps the people in the process instead of coming back and telling them how to think, how to vote, and we constantly reacting. Thank you.
Candidates, well done. Keeping time. Well said as well. Final quick fire question. Each of you has gathered support, some more high profile than others. Tell us whose backing matters the most to you and should be considered by Texas 18 voters when they cast their ballot. Mr. Slater, you go first.
The back of me is the people. I think we're the brokest campaign on this stage. Right? But let me be clear, we turned down over $300,000. Because when you get into D.C., we don't want to be beholden. We don't want no puppet strings. You'll find targets on our backs, but not puppet strings. We truly want to work for the people. So your backing and your influence is very key. Lobbyists and all that, that's great. But we want to bring people to the table when we build Washington, D.C., because right now it's being destroyed. That's our promise.
Mr. Menifee?
We have the people's support as well, but I'm most proud to have the support of the two children of the late Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, because they believe in carrying forward the legacy of the hard work, the true commitment that she has shown throughout her time in office. And I'm also incredibly proud to have the support of more than 15 labor unions, because I am a union grandkid. My grandfather worked at the Port of Houston and passed away on the docks in a work-related incident. The labor union, the way that they came and took care of my family and entrenched us and encircled us, I want to forever continue to fight for working people throughout this district.
Mr. Martin?
I met a grandma in Trinity Gardens. It told me that she was worried about whether or not she'd be able to get her dialysis in the future. And she told me that the Medicaid cuts that we are currently seeing right now would absolutely put her in a terrible position, make her lose her life. So when she came up to me to say that I'm on my way out of here, but I want you to know that I want you to fight for me, that was the most important endorsement I could ever get. So I'm willing to fight for the people of this district to make sure that they have the representation they deserve.
Ms. Edwards?
Well, I'm proud of many of our endorsements, including that of Emily's List, as well as Allison Leland, who is the wife of our former Congressman Mickey Leland. I am most proud of the support that we are receiving, the groundswell of support from the members of the community. And it's the people who come up to me in the neighborhoods who say, thank you for the work that you did to restore and repair my grandmother's house. It's the people who come to me and say, thank you for, of course, showing up and being present and restoring confidence in what's possible with government. That is what I'm most proud of in this work.
Ms. Kador?
I am not a politician. I am an everyday Houstonian, and I am so proud to have the support of everyday Houstonians who have watched me from childhood help people with every stage of my life, whether it was fighting for people throughout my law school as president of the Black Law Students Association, helping people that are not able to find housing and jobs, making sure that I am supporting people regardless of their background, race, or socioeconomic status. I am happy to have the support of the everyday Houstonians who deserve, even when they are in the shadows, to be represented at the highest level of government.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we return, questions of economics and education. We'll be right back.
We do have audience participation from the standpoint of the cards that have been distributed. Please complete them and submit them. There will be someone collecting them so that we can include your questions. The next question is going to be directed towards Isaiah first, and then we'll follow with Zoe, Christian, Amanda, and Robert. As candidates running for the historical 18th Congressional District, following the footsteps of Barbara Jordan, Mickey Leland, Greg Washington, Sheila Jackson Lee, and Sylvester Turner, the fact of the matter is this race is going to be real unique, y'all. Nothing like anything else you've seen. So with that, there's some projections of a runoff. And then in March of 2026, you're going to be in the Texas primary. So what are we going to do from there, especially considering that race will include a completely different 18th Congressional District with new lines and new people, and the idea of Congressman Al Green running in the race? The question becomes, how do you handle this new reality and look out for the best interests of black representation in Texas? First person, Isaiah.
Well, I'm really focused on getting out there and talking to Houstonians right here in Texas 18. It's why we put such a big emphasis on organizing, going in and knocking on doors every single week. It's why we're relentless, going to community clubs and going to civic clubs to talk to our neighbors up and down the district. Ultimately, people want somebody that can stand up to this pathetic president that we have in D.C. because he thinks we're not going to stand up to him. He thinks we're just going to sit back and take what he's given to us. I absolutely say absolutely not to that. That's why we're organizing. That's why we're having nightly town halls so people can come in and ask me questions, because transparency is key. We do a nightly TikTok town hall to do that. And we will continue that effort throughout this campaign to reach Houstonians and to let them know that I'm going to be on their side in Washington to stand up to this failed administration that wants to come for our community with everything they've got.
Zoe.
One thing I learned from my career in Washington, D.C. is that when you get to Congress, you are working on policy that impacts the entire country. And so while my first and foremost responsibility is to the district that elects me, I am working on policy that will be impactful for everyone, regardless of your race, your background, or even where you live. I am always keeping in mind people first. So regardless of what happens in November or in March, I am a candidate that will be able to represent everyone's needs and everyone's rights and be able to protect all of those freedoms, from healthcare to our abortion rights to immigration to the simple ability to live a thriving life, to be able to afford jobs, to be able to afford housing, and to be able to send your kids to a proper school. This redistricting scheme that has been put on by Donald Trump and Greg Abbott has said one thing. It is that we need leadership that can be across all borders, across all districts, and that is the type of leader that I am. I look forward to always upholding the legacy of the many people that came before us, but also being a fighter for everyone, regardless of where you live in this city.
Christian.
The President of the United States and the Governor of Texas are colluding to strip representation from communities across our county. The best way to make sure that you're serving the current CD18 and potentially the new CD18 is to do the work. And that's what I've been doing for the past 4 years. We have gone after property theft in our communities where folks target underserved black and brown neighborhoods, try to steal their homes out from under them. We've done that on the north side and on the south side in the new CD18. We have fought for environmental justice so that every single community can have clean air, clean water, and clean land. That's an issue in Acres Homes, but also in Herm Clark. We've been fighting for both the current district and the new district since I was first sworn in as Harris County Attorney. I believe we should do every single thing we can to make sure that these maps do not go into effect, and that's why I've been fighting so hard. But if the maps do pass, then I am ready, willing, and able to serve my community in whatever capacity possible.
Amanda.
There's an adage that goes like this: if you're not at the table, you are what's on the menu. And because we have spent so much time without our voting member, without our voice, without our vote, without our federal advocate for funding during the middle of hurricane season, we have now seen ourselves be placed on the chopping block with this redistricting. So I have fought tooth and nail, going to Austin, testifying, bringing down Michael Eric Dyson to make sure there was national awareness, and then continuing to make sure that the elevated voices of the 18th were not being forgotten. I will continue this fight for the 18th and make sure that our voices are heard. Our economic stability is restored. Our health care is restored. Our education is restored. These are the building blocks of what makes a community able to thrive. And so with the boundaries in place, I will fight, and I will continue to fight with the 18th Congressional District, with whatever boundaries mean. Thank you.
Robert.
Folks, we deserve leadership with a true plan, not us up here talking like reporters and just talking about ideas, because the fact of the matter is that this may be the last Democratic election in this midterm period. And so we created a plan we call Project 2026. We are running a campaign with beyond the borderlines, helping Ms. Marvelette Hunter in 38, looking at 29, looking at District 9. Before these maps was passed and voted on, we discovered there were 7 seats that could have been flipped. And then the process, when they came back with Plan C 233, it went down to 5. We can do this no matter how you slice up this state. We have more Democrats here, but the problem is that people want to vote on a plan, not just GOTV just because. And not only that, we also have to reach back towards the middle to our moderate Republicans and some of our conservative Democrats to give them an umbrella to come back in. This is democracy against a dictator. That is what we must do. And so we have a plan right now to put boots on the ground in those districts, in those seats, create a command center where every week we have mobilization plans and one message: democracy versus dictatorship. That's the plan.
Isaiah, you have a rebuttal.
Absolutely. I think right now the conversation needs to be about what we're doing to fight back. That's why I support what Governor Gavin Newsom is doing in California to gerrymander Republicans out of their seats the same way they're coming for us. That's why I've been talking to assembly members from California to make sure that gets done. That's why I've been talking to delegates in the Maryland State House to make sure that they can proceed with that. That's why I've been talking with folks in New York. We have to make sure that Democrats are fighting back, and I'll be a voice in Congress to work with governors and assembly members to make sure we can fight back against this ridiculous scam.
Second question. Public safety remains a pivotal concern in Texas 18 and throughout the greater Houston area. Republicans have championed additional traditional policing and swift, even harsh punishment of those who victimize innocent citizens. Is this the wrong approach? If so, explain what should be done differently. Ms. Kador, you're first.
I have many family members who are in the Houston Police Department. I also have friends and family who have been victims of police brutality. It is not a one or the other solution. It is a yes and. We need to have safe policing, but we also need community policing. I've spent many months working with HPD on solutions to ensure that we are policing our streets in a way that keeps the community at mind and keeps the community comfortable. I live very close to some of the highest crime areas in this city, so this is personal for me. And I want to make sure that I'm able to walk home to my house and that my neighbors are able to walk their streets and feel safe. But I also understand that our police need support. And so what I'm going to do is work both on the federal level and with our local leaders to make sure that we are supplementing their needs through federal funding. There are a lot of community programs from mental health to ensuring that we have lights on the streets to where they are able to do their job and the community is still able to feel safe.
Mr. Menifee.
I think the correct solution is we have to both ensure community policing while ensuring that our police are able to do what's necessary to stop violent crime. When I go through our communities, I talk to folks at their homes. I'll talk to a grandmother, and she'll tell me, I want to make sure that my community is safe. So we need to ensure that these areas are being policed. But time and time again, we see that various levels of law enforcement are not able to properly work together, and then we see that there are many, many instances of excessive force. What I want to do is work hand in hand with law enforcement to ensure that community policing is running throughout our communities, but also that we're not asking our police officers to be mental health providers. There are a number of instances where a violence interruption program or a mental health provider being called to a scene is going to be far more effective than calling out law enforcement. So that's both to keep the person safe as well as to keep the law enforcement officers safe. Send me to Congress, and I'm going to ensure that our communities are working hand in hand with our law enforcement officers to ensure that we are stopping violent crime, but that we are protecting our communities from excessive force as well.
Ms. Edwards.
While I was on city council, one of the things I reiterated time and time again, you've got to put your money where your mouth is. And if we are talking about keeping Houstonians safe, we have to fund community policing. And that comes through a combination of both your local funding sources, but also your federal partners as well. And I will be committed as your next Congresswoman to make sure that funding remains in place. But before that, let's take a step back to something called the Big Beautiful Bill that Donald Trump had passed. It cut $900 billion from Medicaid. It cut $300 billion from SNAP. What do you do? What do you think happens when you take away the social safety nets for people and make them desperate and put them in conditions that they cannot afford? You are creating conditions that are ripe for crime instead of ripe for opportunity. We need leadership that's going to have a true vision on how we keep all of our communities safe, because that is what we are elected to do.
Hold your applause, please. Mr. Slater.
First, I think we need to be just transparent and accountability from the Harris County, the county's office as well as the city, right? If crime is going up, why would we keep giving police officers raises and raises and raises? And believe me, I support all the law enforcement, but it should be connected to the crime. If you're not doing the job, we'll go to another story with that. But also, let's see who our political leaders are fighting for. If we're talking about social justice, let's reflect on who on the stage has the highest rate of protecting police officers against immunity, even in the cases of criminal justice, Alanis versus Harris County. But also, let's talk about those after-school programs that the Harris County has cut, as well as the city of Houston has cut. Those programs that keep our youngins off of the streets and that also keep them involved and acclimated. So it takes the leadership to get into these communities, give them something to do, give them the tools and the resources, and not just lock them up because it's a problem. Also, in Harris County, we have death after death after death in Harris County Jail. We're shipping inmates out of state because we can't afford it. So the system that we have is a mental health issue as well. I think I'm the only person up here that's mental health first aid certified because I feel like I should. So employing people to get certified. I'll stop. Thank you.
Sir. Well done, sir. Mr. Martin.
I tell you what, it's certainly not what these sick Republicans are doing. I mean, right now they're sending tanks to American cities left and right. And it seems as if nobody wants to stand up to them. They're talking about they want to have Houston next on their list. That's unbelievable what's happening right now in America. I am unapologetically against that. We've got to have a member of Congress that can call that out. Most importantly, I support making sure that we can have more after-school programs for our kids and getting people out of a broken system. Why? Because when Republicans wrongly threw me in jail, I met so many people caught up by a broken system. A system that fails so many people inside of our district. I'm going to be working every single day to stop people from going to jail before it starts. That's why I'll be working for those community programs, why I'll be working for apprenticeship programs, why I'll be working to make sure that people can get a trade and a job of the future. I think that's how we can crack down on crime before it starts. Yes, I do support the idea of more enforcement, but you got to get to people before they get into crime.
Ms. Kador, would you like to offer a rebuttal?
Yes, I believe in leading with compassion, and that means getting to the root cause of why people are committing crimes. There are bad actors, but there are a lot of people whose lives have been upended, especially under the Trump administration. And we need to make sure we're doing everything we can to help those people, making sure that they have jobs, making sure that they have access to mental health, making sure that they have community programs, supporting churches like Wheeler Avenue, supporting the vision of my former pastor, Pastor Lawson, to make sure that we are protecting the most vulnerable so that they are not in the streets, but they are in these schools and they are in jobs.
Okay, candidates, we're going to take a quick break. When we return, questions of economics and education. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back. Welcome back. Now we start another round of questions. The fact of the matter is education and economics are connected. And understanding that, the 18th District faces deep disparities as it relates to opportunity, wealth, and resources. With that in mind, automation and artificial intelligence is going to make job sustainability even more difficult. And then you put on top of that the rollback of DEI and the access to funding from everything from Head Start to college access. You got a big job ahead of you. I want to know, what are your plans to address some of these challenges related to education and economics? We start with Christian.
You know, when we talk about education, I think about the many, many teachers that helped me get to where I am today. I would not be here were it not for public school teachers who saw something in me and who invested in me. But too many times we are telling our kids that the only way to be successful in our society is to go to college, get a 4-year degree, get $100,000 in debt, and then not be able to have the skills to go and get a high-paying job. I want to increase the number of workforce development programs to ensure that we're investing directly in high schools and community colleges to prepare these folks to do the skilled labor jobs that we already know that we have a shortage of. And I want to make sure that we have apprenticeship programs exactly like what we've done at the county, where we take kids straight from high school, teach them about welding, about elevator constructing, other skilled trades where if they work at it, in several years they can earn $150,000, $200,000, take care of their family, and work to build generational wealth. You send me to Congress, these are the exact issues that I'm going to fight for to make sure that every single kid in our community is properly educated and is prepared for the economy of the future.
Amanda.
While I was on city council, I came across a statistic, one that said that Houston was ranked number 42 in venture capital investment. And I did not just stand back and look at that stat. I rolled up my sleeves and got to work. I started the task force for technology and innovation in our city that has led to the creation of the innovation district anchored by the ION. I also happened to work on making sure that Houston went from $260 million in venture capital investment to over $2 billion in less than 5 years. When I also heard the stat about Houston being the most diverse city in the nation, I got to work in a similar regard. And I started the city's task force for women and minority small business owners. And in doing that work, we found staggering statistics. Black and Latino-owned businesses were falling behind and not having the opportunity to thrive. We've got to put funding into our public education system so that we prepare people for the jobs of tomorrow in tech and innovation, but also create equitable outcomes for our community.
For those in the audience who are concerned that we're stopping some of the candidates, it's because the sign says stop. Okay? So understand that. Nobody's being disrespectful. Okay. With that in mind, Mr. Slater. Robert.
Thank you. Well, we have a bold plan to rebuild the Department of Education after it's been destroyed federally. Just like the Federal Reserve, where it is an institution that's autonomous from executive branch as well as state, it belongs and reports directly to the Congress, so it should. We want to rebuild the education department just like that and equalize the playing field, so no matter where you're in Kirkendall or Upper Kirby, you still get access to the same education. We also want to federally make sure that we codify our teachers. Texas has not funded our education system since 2019 with the raise. That is uncalled for. So rebuilding our educational system, make it equal, and no matter where you stay at, no matter what your tax properties provide, you will get the same education. And furthermore, the cost is a little over $800 billion, equal to that of the defense fund. So for every dollar that is going towards weapons of mass destruction, a percentage of that will go towards weapons of our future. And that's how you pay for it without raising a single tax dollar on our constituency.
Isaiah.
For one, I support the idea of targeted tax incentives to create industry here. I support the $1.2 billion that we got from the federal government to turn that to a hydrogen hub right here in this city. It created 40,000 jobs to make it available for our city. I also support expanding that, looking to see what we can do to get microchip development right here in the 18th Congressional District, just like they did down the road in Austin. But further, I think that we have to talk about making sure that it is people within inside of our district that are getting these jobs, because currently they're getting people from all around the country, from Oklahoma, from California, all these different places. We have to create the training structure to train people for the jobs of tomorrow. That starts with tuition-free community colleges. It starts by more federal grants to make apprenticeship programs available. And when we take back the House in 2026, I'll file that bill personally myself to make sure that it can get across the finish line. We need somebody that understands how to use Washington to work for us, and I'll get that done as your congressman.
Zoe.
I'm a proud graduate of an HBCU, Spelman College, and this is home to Texas Southern University. I am going to, one, make sure we are protecting and supporting our HBCUs, because we have a lot of students, black, brown, and everything in between, that are able to receive an amazing education from HBCUs. I also happen to work for one of the largest industries in this state and in this city, and while we are going through the transition for our energy industry, we need to make sure that we are training students so that they can be prepared for the next generation of jobs. We also need to acknowledge that we are dealing with a generation of students who are traumatized. They have seen what happened during the pandemic. They have seen a president that has eliminated thousands of jobs throughout the federal government. So we need to be supporting them, helping them to start small businesses, inspiring them to pursue their dreams, whether that's being an influencer or whether that's being an investor. We need to make sure that we are holding tight to what it means to have the American dream. And that means that you can dream to be whatever it is that you want to be. And I want to make sure that our schools support that.
Thank you. Christian, you have the rebuttal.
We're never going to be able to put kids into workforce development programs and build out this economy if we don't have a public school system that is well funded. We've seen the governor gut our public school system in the state of Texas. Our teachers are being asked to hold 4 and 5 jobs while being paid minimum wages. I believe that our schools should be palaces and our teachers should be paid 6 figures like the professionals that they are. When I'm in Congress, I'm going to fight to make sure that federal funding comes down to take care of our public schools and to ensure that we protect the Department of Education.
Y'all are going to like this question. After the 2024 presidential election setback, Democrats, in the eyes of many voters, seem to be suffering a deficit of clearly defined goals and clearly identified leadership. If given the opportunity, how would you advise your party to proceed into the 2026 midterms and beyond? And I'm starting with Amanda.
A people without a vision shall perish. And right now, our community is without a vision, especially in this moment that we're facing, where unprecedented attacks are being waged by our president, Donald Trump. We have got to be in this business of playing both offense and defense. I grew up playing sports, and you didn't get to sit on your hands when it was time to play defense. That was when it was time to get mobilized. That was time to get strong and stand up. And that is what this moment requires of us. But we can't just ask people to stand up just to stand up. We've got to show them where we can go, where we ought to be. And that's where leadership is all about. We've got to have a vision, much like they did during the civil rights movement, where you had a litigation strategy, you had a legislative strategy, you had a strategy for advocacy so that we can all achieve the community that we deserve to see. That is what the work of this new leadership ought to be about.
Mr. Slater.
The good thing is that you don't have to wait till then, because we're doing it right now. It's clear leadership and messaging. One thing about Donald Trump, if anything that you got to give him, is that when he say alternative facts, his whole operation says alternative facts. When he say fake news, everybody on that side say fake news. On this side, our messaging is a little bit off. It's a little in silos. So we have to bring everybody to the table, no matter if you're white, black, no matter if you're conservative or true progressive, whatever it is. 42% of voters are in the middle. And we have to get those voters as well as our progressive voters and also give them one message. This is democracy against a dictatorship. And that's something even a Republican that voted for Trump last time can vote on this time. If we don't speak to the Republicans, the moderates, the real ones, the John McCain Republicans, we cannot do this alone. So we have to create messaging, and we have to get out there. And let me tell you this. We're going to take 22, we're going to take District 2, and 14 looking mighty scrumptious right now as well. We're going to do it, and we're going to do it all together on the same board, on the same message. We got this.
Mr. Martin.
Well, first off, we've got to be a lot stronger against this failed president that we have. I mean, we've got folks running around acting like this guy is some type of albatross. I mean, he's down 8 points in the polls. He was literally diddling around writing love letters to the most notorious child molester in the history of the United States of America. And we got folks running around acting like he's some type of guy. It's absurd. We have to be much more aggressive against him. We have to support what Gavin Newsom is doing in California to gerrymander out Republicans. But then we also have to go and make sure that we're communicating a clear vision for the future. That means being bold. That means guaranteeing child care so you don't have to pay so much money. That means axing the Trump tax so your groceries are not so high. That means making sure we can guarantee health care so you're not paying these ridiculous prices to go and see a doctor. These issues affect every single person's pocketbook in the United States of America, and it's time that the Democratic Party stands up, be aggressive to fight this failed president and the failed Republicans that are destroying everything we have.
Ms. Kador.
I want to fight against Donald Trump like everyone else. But the reality is, regardless if we are fighting or not, there are people that are dealing with real issues every single day on the ground. And these are common sense issues that need to have common sense results. It is common sense that when we have a weather event, we want our lights to stay on. It is common sense that we want our neighborhoods to be safe. It is common sense that we want access to health care and that we shouldn't have to have anyone telling women what to do with their bodies. We have to stop looking at policy issues that are so too far to the left or too far to the right. What is happening in the middle? What do everyday Americans and everyday Houstonians care about? And we have to start doing things that just make sense for everyone, regardless of your background, regardless of your political affiliation. This is the only way that we win back all of the Americans that sat out on the sidelines. The reality is that people are suffering, they are hurting, and they want to see how we are going to help make their lives better. I am here to make lives better for every Houstonian.
Mr. Menifee.
We have to make sure that we have an America where everybody can afford opportunity to live out the American dream. There used to be a time in this country where you could work 40 hours a week, get the house, the 2 cars, send your kids to do better than you did, and be able to retire at a reasonable age. But we see all throughout this country, expenses are increasing and the dollar is staying stagnant. That's why we need to increase jobs in our communities and workforce development programs. That's why we need to stop the crippling credit card debt and medical debt that is harming so many of our communities. But we already know we can't get anywhere unless we take care of what's going on in the White House. And I think about the legacy of this seat. In the early 1970s, when the late Congresswoman Barbara Jordan stood up at the House Judiciary Committee and gave one of the most compelling political speeches you will ever hear, it was about Richard Nixon and the Watergate scandal. That speech set off a firestorm in this country, and it led to the resignation of the President of the United States. Now, Richard Nixon was corrupt, but he ain't got nothing on Donald Trump. When I go to D.C., I'm going to continue the spirit of the late Congresswoman Barbara Jordan, and we're going to fight back against this president who's doing so much harm to our communities.
Ms. Edwards, would you like to offer a rebuttal?
One thing I learned while serving as your at-large Houston City Council member is that you've got to walk and chew gum at the same time. That means you've got to be able to deal with the problems as they come your way, and there are many problems, but you also have to seize the opportunity you might just miss if you have no vision and don't look up and look forward. There are so many issues ranging from healthcare, education, economic stability that are on this ballot, but you are the most important aspect of what's on this ballot.
Guys and ladies, as a member of the minority party in Congress, you got an uphill battle. And the reality is, many of you have already mentioned the fact that the Trump administration has pursued policies that directly impact black and brown communities negatively. Whether it's the unemployment that they've created with the firing of federal workers, or whether it's dismantling SNAP and Medicare, the list goes on, and then undermining our whole voting process. With that in mind, candidates often talk a good game, but it's harder to make it happen. The question that I have is, how do you plan to work with Republicans in the House to ensure the needs of the 18th Congressional District are addressed and you deliver positive results? With that, Slater.
Thank you. Like you said, it's common sense working. We've been in Washington, D.C. 4 times. We talked to Republicans that's sitting right now and Democrats. Unfortunate, they can't come out because everybody, what would happen if they did. But you have to build that coalition, because it's not just what your one vote is, or it's a tit for tat, or somebody's behind you pulling your puppet strings telling you what to do. You have to start from the community and make a demand. Social Security cuts, it doesn't look at race. Benefits being cut doesn't look at race. So the same people that is affecting our minorities, guess what? It's affecting them too. But we got to get out there and talk to them. We got to get out there and give them something safe to come over here and talk to as well, and let them know that we represent all of them. It's the Republicans and it's people that are libertarian and so on and so forth in District 18. So it transcends race and it transcends party. But the most important thing is to talk to them and work with them from the grass up and give them a seat at the table as well. The biggest thing Donald Trump wanted us to do is to go against each other. White, black, Latino, old, young, transition. We got to stop it. Everybody deserves a seat at this table in District 18. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Mr. Martin.
I always say that the best bipartisanship is a retirement party for every Republican member of Congress that's currently there. This is not normal times. These Republicans don't want to work with us. These guys are terrified of the Trump endorsement. They're scared of him. They can't even look at their own shadow because they're so terrified of what he will say about them, what he will tweet about them. They are sick and scared. And I think that we need a movement of people across this country that have the backbone to say that. I'm willing to go and stand up against these guys, to campaign against them all around the Houston area, to campaign against them in their own districts. But it's not just there. We have 3 Republicans elected at large on the city council in the city of Houston. I am committing to making sure I put every bone in my body to get them off. We need people that have the fire that's willing to fight, and I don't care if you have an R next to your name wherever you are, I'm coming for you when I'm your congressman.
Kador.
When I served as the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation Energy Fellow, it was during the Trump administration. And for 4 very, very long years, I worked with Republicans in the House and in the Senate to make sure that we were keeping Houston first. Regardless of who was in the White House and who had control of the Congress, I made sure that jobs came back to this community. I made sure that black and brown children had opportunities. I made sure that our schools were being well funded and that organizations such as the Ensemble Theater and the Urban League and Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater were able to receive corporate support. Because at the end of the day, people do not care what party you are. When they need your help, when they need your assistance, they need to know that you are going to pick up the phone and do what you need to do. One thing I learned from working with Congresswoman Jackson Lee as an intern is that we don't take no for an answer. I don't care who's in the office. I don't care who's in control. I'm going to get what I need to get done for the people that I represent. And you can sit here and be mad all you want, but the reality is I know how to navigate systems better than they do.
Menifee.
Your job as a member of Congress is to operate with a scalpel, not with an axe. There are days where it's going to be important to fight. I know this because we heard the question about the layoffs that happened at the federal level. I sued Donald Trump over that, and we got an early win in that case that delayed those layoffs for months. I've done the fighting, and there's not a single person on this stage who has worked harder to get Democrats elected across the state of Texas, not in the future, but in the past. But there are some days where that means collaboration. Out in Carverdale, when they tried to expand a landfill more deeply into the community, I worked with a Republican Harris County commissioner to stop that landfill from being pushed into that historically black neighborhood. When an e-cigarette company was targeting our kids to try to sell them vaping products and get them hooked and get them sick, I worked with the Republican Attorney General to go after that company. And we brought $20 million back to Harris County to protect those kids. There are days where you're going to fight, and I don't think there's a single person up here who can say that they haven't fought like I did. But my number one job is to serve the community. And on different days, that's going to be collaborating to get things done and to bring resources back home.
Edwards.
I have been fighting for people of this community for many years. And in fact, 8 years ago was something known as Harvey hit our community. It was the second worst disaster in United States history. And of course, one of the things that was critically important is that we not only respond to disasters, but we prevent them from as well. One of the things that is important to note is that we cannot stop the rain from falling, but it is government's job to be prepared to catch it when it does. And that that is an opportunity for us in the Texas delegation to work together to get reform when it comes to disaster recovery, which does not work for people. When it comes to making sure that FEMA is adequately funded and people are better trained instead of dismantling it as our president would have us do. It is time to start getting serious when it comes to saving lives. I've answered the calls when I only had Facebook accessible, when people could not get into 911. This is serious business, and we have got to work together to keep our community safe.
Mr. Slater, you have the opportunity to do the rebuttal.
Plain and simple, Donald Trump is going to steal this election. This redistricting is just the tip of the iceberg to codify Congress so when they win, they can expand the presidential wartime authority power, so on and so forth. He's always testing with it. He already said he's going to change the name of the Department of Defense to Department of War. This is happening. That's why you got tanks on the White House and on the state capitol right now. Last week, all of a sudden, after his meeting with Putin, the Russians accidentally hit a base out overseas. They're testing it. Once he get these votes that he needs, then that means that the election could be suspended. This is our last fight.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, questions from you, the audience.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back. We're going to start with questions from our audience. I have chosen this one. What do you plan on doing for the residents of Fifth Ward? It's been 8 years since Harvey, and we still have no houses. Stop playing with people's lives. We have been waiting for years. I'm going to throw that question first to Mr. Martin.
Well, first off, I agree, because we've had so many meetings to talk about this, and it's time to finally bring action. Here's the truth. I think we need to talk about the fact that Republicans are sticking their hands in the cookie jar when it comes to FEMA. $438 million is what they just took from FEMA to go build something called Alligator Alcatraz. a facility that they are literally using to go and detain American citizens and legal residents. They took money from you in Fifth Ward. They took money from you in Cedar Gas. They took money from you in Clinton Park, because if some type of event happens right here in our district, they took the money. We have to be very unapologetic about fixing that. One, when we take back the House, I'll be working to make sure we put that money back. Number two, we have to guarantee free health care for everybody affected by this. Three, we have to be talking about more grants to go and build housing for those affected by this. We got to be talking about bringing federal dollars directly for this, and we have to stop Republicans from stealing money out of the cookie jar that we have for recovery.
Ms. Kador.
There is no reason that in one of the greatest cities in America, we have neighborhoods that suffer more than other neighborhoods in that same city. I am here to bring parity to Houston, and I'm here to bring parity to this district. Fifth Ward should get the same type of treatment and the same type of response that we have in River Oaks and that we have in the Heights. We should be able to make sure that in Third Ward, when our houses are flooding, that we are able to eliminate that, and that people are not waiting years for the insurance companies to come in and make sure that they are cleaning it up. We have to make sure that we are using our federal funds to be distributed in a way that is equitable. And what I will do as soon as I get to Congress, or any elected official, is to do an oversight of where the funds are going to ensure that the people in Fifth Ward, people on the north side, people in Sunnyside are able to get the relief that they need when we have any type of weather event, whether it's a hurricane or whether it's a winter storm. But first and foremost, we need to make sure that Houston is a city that works for everyone, regardless of your zip code.
Mr. Menifee.
We've seen that in Fifth Ward, folks suffer from an environmental injustice area if there ever was one. You have more cancer clusters, you have more concrete batch plants, you have lower life expectancies, you have higher issues with people's lungs and breathing in their heart, and it's because of the overconcentration of pollutions in this area. But at the same time, we know the devastation that occurred with Hurricane Harvey, and we know the challenges that Republicans presented to that. When the Hurricane Harvey dollars were sent from HUD directly to our communities, we saw that there was $1 billion that was guaranteed to the region that was impacted by Hurricane Harvey. Houston and Harris County got a combination of $0 out of that more than $1 billion. I was part of the team of folks at the county who fought to make sure that that number went from $0 to $750 million to flow back into our communities. Now, but we know the main problem here is we got to do better in local government. When these dollars come to our communities, we have to do everything we can to be proper administrators of it and get the houses built. Fifth Ward should receive the same treatment as any other part of Houston.
No applause, please. No applause. Ms. Edwards.
After Harvey struck and I learned that so many of our seniors were being left behind, I rolled up my sleeves. I got to work and I rebuilt homes and the community. I know firsthand what is going on when our seniors are being arbitrarily denied support. We had to get a New York Times piece written by someone by the name of Miss Caverna Moore because FEMA denied her claim. We can't have a disaster recovery system that doesn't involve housing solutions. So as your next Congresswoman, it is my intent to create a housing solutions center where we're actually connecting the federal, the state, the local governments and providing adequate case management so that people can navigate instead of to no's, they can actually navigate their way to a yes, and repair and restoration and recovery in the way that our community deserves. What has happened in the aftermath of Harvey ought to be embarrassing because there are too many of our folks who are suffering in silence, including Fifth Ward. And I take it personally because I have deep roots there and will work hand in hand to make sure that you are part of that housing solutions plan.
Please stop. Mr. Slater.
The bottom line is Fifth Ward keep being sold out and betrayed left and right by our political leaders. And when we talked about social justice, and Mr. Menifee, maybe you can answer this, because I know that dramatically we filed a lawsuit against Union Pacific about creosote, and I don't know, maybe it's a report out there what happened with that. But the community also needs to know is how can you file a lawsuit against an entity, but the very county commissioners is buying stock every 5 minutes, profiting off of it. It doesn't make sense. On June 3rd, we had a train derailment of 8 cars that hit the bottom of Highway 59, and not one police officer, firefighter, just the community leaders came out there on the forefront. And to this day, the elected officials office, 4 days later, Tarsha Johnson, District B, finally released a statement, too little, too late. You have people dying. People are dying literally, and they just need their leaders that cannot be sought to Union Pacific, and Union Pacific needs to be held accountable. So on day one, I will be holding an oversight hearing or a field hearing, and to anybody or any organizations that is including with you specifically. Let me be clear. Your time is coming as well.
There are some great
No,
audience.
please
Oh,
hold
no
your
applause.
applause.
Remember, okay.
Just trying to be fair to everybody.
It is very
There'll be
difficult
time.
picking the right audience question because there are some very, very good questions. In our district, the 18th District, yes.
Don't I get 30 seconds rebuttal?
No rebuttal.
No
on the
rebuttals in this
audience.
round.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sorry. Darn it.
Y'all have been great. Y'all have been a great,
You really
great
have.
slate of candidates.
You know I can talk.
Yeah. Okay. So in the 18th District, we see the impact of untreated mental health conditions every day in our schools, in our criminal justice system, and in the workplace and our working families. If elected, how will you ensure federal resources are directed towards expanding accessible, culturally responsive, and affordable mental health right here in the community? Dr. Danny, thanks for the question. We will start with Zoe.
Well, first, I want to just acknowledge the trauma that so many of us have experienced from the COVID pandemic, from Donald Trump being elected again, and watching someone as esteemed as Kamala Harris losing. By the way, I was a part of the 92%. I did my job. I want to make sure that we understand where we need to put these mental health services. It's not enough to just get the money. And I know this is someone that has procured almost $1 million of federal funding, millions of dollars of federal funding for this city. You have to have oversight. You have to continue making sure that the funds get to where they need to be. And that is what I promise to do. I will not just go to Washington, D.C., fight for the funds and bring them home. I will make sure that we are working with every level of government to ensure that the funds go to the schools, the community centers, the churches, and the homeless facilities where they need to be. Lastly, we have to stop only relying on federal funding. We have to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves as Houstonians, and as a city and as people and leaders, I will make sure that that is what happens here.
Christian.
Well, there's two different areas. One is to protect our veterans. I come from a long line of veterans, of people who served in the United States Armed Forces, with my father serving 28 years and 11 months. And what they'll tell you is that when folks are active duty, everybody treats them like they're a patriot and a hero. But the moment that they leave the service, our government forgets about them. So I want to do every single thing I can to direct mental health services, those funds directly from the federal government to our veterans. But we also need to talk about the maternal mortality crisis and the different types of treatment that white women in this country get versus black women. There's an act right now in Congress, the Omnibus Act, and one of the things that it would put money to is mental health treatment for African American mothers who are going through emergency C-sections and who have just been through an incredibly traumatic experience. There are so many people in this audience right now who have dealt with this exact issue, and we need to put our money where our mouth is and ensure that that funding is protecting them in our communities.
Amanda.
We've got to get serious about the mental health crisis that we have in our country. And one of the things that is critically important is to make sure that we are funding those efforts, and by way of grants, but also by way of our policy, making sure our policies actually work, that the Affordable Care Act that we have in place actually expands to include mental health in more ways as opposed to contracting those opportunities. Right now, with that big, beautiful bill that I talked about, we have seen health care get contracted in our community, and that is the wrong direction. We need to be providing resources not only to those that need them most, but also to our law enforcement community so that they can then break off and have those mental health officers, as opposed to having police go out in the communities and do the work of mental health care workers. It's critically important that we put dollars in the hands of our local governments and that they disperse them appropriately.
Robert.
Yeah, so if someone is doing the work right now, every other weekend we go into prisons and talk to young men, part of an organization called Helping to Understand Mental Health and Normalizing Support. It's huge, especially in black men, because with so much that we're enduring that goes on, that it's a stigma around it that we just have to break. But to furthermore, also taking a class to get certified as a mental health first aid responder, which I thought was pretty cool, because we should be on the front line. We should mandate. If you get federal dollars, we want to mandate that you have these first aid responders on the police force, as well as in school. Let me also say this. We're partnering with the National Association of Black Counselors as well as some organizations to provide 2 30-minute counseling sessions to every single constituent in District 18 in the next 30 days. Because 800,000 people, though it seemed like a big task, it's talking about what you could do then, we're planning it right now. Because people, what we're going through, we need somebody to talk to. And while we're locking up homelessness and we're throwing law offices at people that need mental health aid, people need to care instead of trying to put everybody in cages, and that's what we're going to do.
Isaiah.
When the Republicans wrongly threw me in jail, one of the first things I saw, it's true, when they did that, one of the first things I saw was a massive blood splatter on the walls of my cell. It was there because a man had been there before and had beat his head completely against the wall. That's a mental health crisis. The Republicans have ran this state for 30 straight years. And they have defunded almost every aspect of mental health that we see. At the University of Houston, a couple of years ago, we had 2, 3 students commit suicide on campus because they were literally waiting for a mental health appointment. That's what's happening right now. I'll be filing the For the Students Act to make sure that more grants are available for students to have somebody to talk to. I will vote for earmarks to go and put more funding for community mental health organizations. I'll also be working to make sure that our veterans can be fully protected and have a VA that's fully funded. We need somebody that understands this issue and is ready to fight.
There are more questions from the audience. We're going to take a break. Coming up next.
We'll be right back. We continue with questions from our audience. Candidates, you'll have 45 seconds to answer each of these. Our region continues to face infrastructure challenges, including aging roads, limited public transportation, and gaps in telecommunication systems. What is your plan to bring federal investment to our district to address these needs? And I'm going to start with Mr. Menifee.
The first thing you have to do is work with folks at every single level of government to identify the issues. I've built relationships at the city, at the county, at the state level, and at the federal level. And there's so many different neighborhoods in the 18th Congressional District. They're going to need unique solutions, like Acres Homes, where there are many parts of town that don't even have sidewalks. We should be bringing HUD dollars directly down to address those issues. The second thing is ensuring that we have local hiring requirements. When money flows into the 18th Congressional District, we shouldn't be hiring companies that are doing business with folks who live out in Maine and in Alaska. Those dollars should be flowing right here to people in our community so that they can build themselves up and have a fair shot at opportunity. I'm going to fight every single day in Congress to make sure that those dollars make it here, but once they get here, it's making sure that I'm working collaboratively with the people on the ground so that they're spent in a smart way.
Ms. Edwards.
Investing in infrastructure should not start when we are in the aftermath of a disaster. We have got to get serious about putting people in office who are going to work on getting those resources down when we need them in advance. I served as a city council member and also on the Houston-Galveston Area Council's TPC, Transportation Policy Council, which helps to bring down federal resources for transportation projects. One of the things that was glaring during my service was the fact that in the next 20 years, we can anticipate over 4 million people coming into our 8-county region, and we still don't have a plan to absorb it. We have got to put the resources into high-capacity, multimodal transit. We've also got to invest in flood prevention infrastructure to keep our residents safe.
Mr. Slater.
Well, first off, even let's talk about flood, because every time it rains, it floods in the city, right? But the problem is a lot of money for flooding, it goes to new projects of big buildings, expanding the bio, so on and so forth. If you take 10% to 15% of the blockage of the drains, will put the community into the flood zone. So we need to start taking the money and start doing maintenance and upgrades with our drainage system as of right now, instead of waiting on to the next disaster. Second of all, we talk about infrastructure like displacements, like the horrible TxDOT situation. If Texas want to come down here and expand our highways with $9 billion, imagine if we took just 1% of that, $90 million. $90 million could have gave $80,000 to each one of the 1,079 people that it displaced. So we need to renegotiate the terms of agreements when these infrastructure projects come through to make sure the community that's disrupting, they benefit first and foremost.
Mr. Martin.
Well, for one, I think that we need to build the Ike Dike. I mean, think about how long it's been. I was literally in elementary school when this was first proposed. It was 20 years ago. It's absolutely insane. We have to commit to getting that done. But when I go around and I talk to people around the district, they're always telling me about these sky-high water bills that they get. We absolutely, right now, have more than 285,000 machines that are reading water bills that we know that are going to become broken over the next few years. We have to commit to fixing that now. I'll be working on what I call the Government Modernization Act to bring federal dollars to go and fix those in advance to save you money and to prevent you from getting a headache.
Ms. Kador.
I have helped procure millions of dollars of federal funding. It is not enough to just get the money. Right now in Cashmere Gardens, we have people who are wondering where was the federal funding to help build the houses and the sidewalks that they were promised. You can't just procure the money. You have to make sure that the money is distributed in a way that is equitable. You have to make sure that the projects actually happen. I am here to not just procure money because I'm very good at that, but I'm here to make sure that the money actually comes down to the most vulnerable people and the most vulnerable communities, because we are the ones that need this money, and we have to make sure that it's not just about putting numbers on the board and saying that we scored some big things. It's about making sure that we are actually helping people and delivering results. We have real issues. We have to have real results for them.
Sheriff Fagan, I want to tell you thank you for this question. Fact. Today, the #1 cause of death of children age 1 to 19 is from firearms. What is your plan to curb so many guns on the street? We'll start with Amanda.
I am proud to say that I am the gun sense designated candidate by Moms Demand Action. When I was growing up, my family had gun violence in it, which resulted in my cousin's murder. It is critically important that we begin to really embark upon common sense gun policies. If somebody's got a restraining order out on them because of a domestic violence case, we don't need to be selling them a gun. We need to get into the business of making sure that we are putting dollars and resources into keeping people safe from violent crime. This is serious business for our community, and we have a disproportionate amount of people in the 18th Congressional District that do suffer from gun violence. And so as your next Congresswoman, I will make sure that we prioritize this so our families remain safe.
Mr. Slater. Robert.
Yes, I mean, this is the Second Amendment is the Second Amendment. But we need to go back and understand that weapons of mass destruction should not be on the streets. Hunting rifles and things like that could kill law officers or pierce through metal or armor should not be on the streets. But we also, because it is a right, it is a constitutional right, but we also need to increase the education and responsibility, especially to the minority community, on gun management, on properly locking them up, on proper training. Because if we talk about the majority of gun owners in this country, especially in NRA, that's one of the things that you see that the kids at a youngest age are given those type of tools and resources. So if you are a gun owner, be responsible to teach your children, to teach them and be responsible, and also, thank you.
Isaiah.
Well, one, we need people that can unapologetically say that I support banning the sale of assault-style weapons in this country because it's long overdue. We saw the Santa Fe shooting. We saw what just happened in Minnesota. My own brother had to be forced into lockdown when he was in high school over a perceived active shooter situation. This is not normal, and we should not act like it is. So one, we also need to support fully getting illegal firearms off the street by fully funding the ATF. Yes, we need red flag laws as well. But in addition to that, we have to address the NRA that's funding the pockets of all these Republicans. I fully support getting all outside money out of politics to bankrupt the NRA to stop their reign of terror over America.
Okay. Zoe.
No parent should be afraid of sending their child to school. They shouldn't be afraid of sending their child to Sunday school. We should not have any place in America where children are susceptible to gun violence. Unfortunately, banning guns is not going to stop it because a lot of times it is a mental health crisis. We have to start addressing the mental health crisis in this country. We have to make sure that we are identifying and being honest about the fact that it is not always black and brown kids that have issues. There are other kids of other races that have issues too. And oftentimes it is our children that are said have the issues, but somehow it is not always our children that are the ones doing the shooting, but a lot of times it is our children that are the victims. So we need to really have a real conversation in America about this mental health crisis, how we are addressing it, and where we are placing the blame.
Christian.
Just the other day, we saw yet another mass shooting in our country. And when I get up in the morning, I go take my 2 young sons to school and drop them off. I think about, what would I do? What would happen if there was a shooting at their school? No parent throughout our community should have to think through those types of issues. And the reason we're in the place today is because the Republican Party has tried to ensure that everybody in the community can get guns, and any type of gun that they want, even weapons of destruction that bring harm to mass amounts of people. That's why I believe in supporting the ban of assault weapons in this country. I want to ensure that we limit high-capacity magazines, because there are certain types of clips you just don't need in a gun. And I want to end the gun show loophole, because there's no reason why somebody should be able to sell a gun to another person and there hasn't been a background check. When I go to Congress, guns is going to be one of my top issues, and I promise to fight back.
Okay, when we come back, closing statements from our candidates. Stay with us.
We are now done with all of the questions. Each candidate will now get exactly 1 minute to make a closing statement. The order was decided by a random drawing before the start of the debate, which I think many of you witnessed.
Mr. Slater, you're first.
What happens when the money's gone? When you got a president that's unruly trying to take over, become a dictator? What happened when all the plans and the ideas that we're saying that we're going to do, you just don't have the ability? What do you have left? What do your experience get you? It's time for a leader that can look beyond politics, that can look into the community, that can mobilize and reach across in the private sector as well as the funding to get everybody together. Remember that when real change happened in the past, it happened by Martin Luther King, Brother Malcolm. It didn't happen from really within. But taking the civil rights movement into the body and fighting when the gates are locked is what we need right now. And I guarantee to be the champion of the people for that. Thank you.
Mr. Menifee.
I'm Christian Menifee, and I'm running for Congress in the 18th Congressional District because I am passionate about our communities. I love our communities, and every single day I go to Congress, I will be a fighter for you. As the Harris County Attorney, I have never stood idly by and watched our Constitution be trampled on. I have never let anybody take advantage of our communities, and I have fought back against Donald Trump in one, against Greg Abbott in one, against Ken Paxton in one, and that's the type of fire I'm going to bring to Washington, D.C. if you elect me to Congress. When you're looking right here, you're seeing a person who is dedicated to our communities. There's no puppet strings. There's nobody pulling anything behind the scenes. There is somebody who loves our communities, who is dedicated to it, and every single day I show up in Congress, I will fight for our communities. I'm not selling you promises I've never made. I'm doing the work, and I will do the work when I go to Congress.
No applause, please. Hold your applause. Mr. Martin.
We are not in normal times. I think that's evident. We have a failed president doing everything he can to come for us. And I think that you can look at the contrast on this stage when you saw the bipartisanship answer. These Republicans don't care about us. They don't want to work with us. They want to do everything they can. These guys are literally trying to make sure there's never an election again. Trump just said that he wants to take 100 congressional seats, and we're over here talking about bipartisanship? We got to get real. And we got to get somebody that can be unapologetic. The people of the 18th Congressional District are looking for somebody that's willing to meet the moment. We need to fight back with everything that we have. It's exactly what I've done my entire life. It's exactly what people are seeing in this campaign. It's why we've raised more dollars in this quarter than any candidate on this stage, an average of $19 a person. That's the kind of Democratic Party we want to build. One that fights for you instead of the few. And when you send me to Congress, we will beat the Republicans, destroying America.
Ms. Kador.
I became a caretaker during COVID to my grandmother who has dementia and my father who has cancer. And I learned very quickly how much our government fails us every single day. I used to ask myself why. Why are people suffering in the greatest country in the world? Why are people unable to find a job? Why are people unable to have assistance during a weather event? Why are people unable to get their medicine? Why are our seniors paying taxes on their Social Security? Then I looked at Donald Trump and realized Donald Trump does everything he says he wants to do. And I realized we need someone that is going to go to office and is going to tell everyone what it is that we are going to do, and then we need to do it. And for many years, I have done that in Washington, D.C., representing some of the largest companies in the world. And I did it because I was skilled at policy making and politicking. And that is what I promise I will do. I will fight for you every single day in a way that is skillful, in a way that is analytical, in a way that actually gets things done. This is a time where we need to stop asking ourselves why, and we need to start making real results for real people.
Ms. Edwards.
As Democrats, we've got a math problem. We have got to bring people back to the democratic process so that we can now shift the course of this nation. When Harvey first struck, I remember people being shocked when I would step foot on their doorsteps and they'd say, "What are you doing here?" And what are you doing here in the aftermath of Harvey? And of course, I was there to help as their city council member. We have conditioned our communities to believe that the only time that we're going to stand foot on their doorstep is when we need a vote. And we've got to show our community and restore the confidence again that we can stand for them and stand up and show up when it's time to deliver results. Results when it comes to housing, results when it comes to healthcare, results when it comes to economic opportunity. And I have done those things while a city council member. I helped build our our economic opportunity for our small businesses. While a city council member, I also helped create housing opportunity. It is time to put people over politics and deliver results.
Let's hear it for this exceptional slate of candidates. Well done, candidates. Well done. Thank you for joining us for this special coverage of Texas 18th Congressional District Democrats Forum. There are Republicans and independent candidates who are running in this nonpartisan primary. We hope to have them on Fox Local in the coming weeks as you prepare to make your decision.
The special election is set for November 4th, almost 7 months to the date that the seat became vacant. Ridiculous. If no candidate receives the majority of the vote, a runoff will be held at a later date. In closing, for over 90 years, the Defender has served this community, and we are proud and appreciate your support. We want you to check out thedefendernetwork.com as it relates to daily news, because it's about us, by us, and for us. With that,
and remember, you can watch this debate again on the Fox Local app and on our Fox 26 YouTube page. Good night, everyone. Thank you, timekeepers. Great job.